Do not react to this message.
Allow me first to apologize. I do, like many of you, appreciate the comforts of everyday routine, the security of the familiar, the tranquility of repetition.
You must follow my directions very closely. You are in grave danger.
Understanding our past determines actively our ability to understand the present. How do we sift truth from belief? How do we write our own histories, personally or culturally, and thereby define ourselves? How do we penetrate years, centuries of historical distortion to find original truth?
The terrible thing about searching for the truth is that sometimes you find it.
This is your nautical lantern on the dangerous seas of darkness. Let's push off from the placid shore of the status quo and explore what's beyond the horizon. I am your host, BT, and this is Truth and Shadow, your podcast of the supernatural.
How many of us has actually grown up enamored by the Knights, the Templars, the Hospitalier? But when you're Catholic, it's a little bit different, because you hear of St. Francis and St. Dominic, the humble and the brave. You hear of St. Benedict, who fled the corruption of Rome to pray in the wilderness. You hear of St. Joan of Arc, who basically died for her visions, and of St. Thomas More, who died rather than lie. But then you discover in the quiet corners of the Catholic history names like the Knights of Malta. They are an ancient, noble, romantic order. It's a crusader order turned hospitalier charity. And they're still wearing the white cross on black, still swearing loyalty to the Holy See. Some may even say they are the oldest order of chivalry in the world. But it's somewhere between the stained glass windows and the darker secrets of their story that something doesn't sit quite right with me. There's something below the line, beneath the ink of the page. It's like a watermark. Something feels off. Because the Knights of Malta are not just knights. They're not just people with a rosary and a sword. They're a sovereign entity without a nation, a state without land, and a Catholic order with ambassadors, license plates, passports, and permanent observer status at the United Nations. Try explaining that to your parish priest. Try explaining how a group of men who claim to serve the sick also seem to serve alongside power brokers, billionaires. How high-ranking members of the order have had deep ties to the CIA, to NATO, MI6, to the ruling elite of Europe and the quiet elite of Wall Street. Try explaining how the Grand Master of the Order wears robes like a prince of the church, but answers to no bishop. How a Catholic group can exist both as a spiritual order and a geopolitical ghost. They seem to flicker in and out of statecraft like a mirage. Try explaining how Catholic charity became Catholic diplomacy. And yet here's where it gets tricky. Because if you ask too many questions, you're accused of being uncharitable, disloyal, suspicious of your own faith, a conspiracy theorist. And that's exactly what keeps the shadows intact. And as a Catholic myself, I feel that tension. We are taught to honor tradition, to obey the church, to trust. But honestly, we're also taught to test every spirit, to be wise as serpents and remain as gentle as doves. And when a religious order accumulates titles, powers, privilege, political immunity, all while cloaking itself in piety, someone has to ask, is this Christ's kingdom or Caesar's? You see, not all conspiracies wear ski masks and sneak through the night. Some wear medals, some carry incense, some wear custom-tailored cassocks and sit on advisory boards for the IMF. And no one wants to talk about it. Because the deeper you look into the Knights of Malta, the more you realize how effective they've been at merging their entity with influence. Some kind of cloistered mystique with modern strategy, sacred duty of the subtle weapons of the modern world, money, access, and plausible deniability. I gotta be honest, there are good people in the order. Make no mistake. They pray, they serve, and they help the poor, but you see, power is always hungry. And somewhere along the way, it seems the cross was lifted not in worship, but in conquest. Is it worth asking, who do they answer to now?
Tonight, this will be our quest.
Do not react to this message. Do not react to this message.
They wear the cross of mercy, but speak in tongues of power. They are diplomats without a country, knights without a battlefield, and warriors sworn to a sovereign ruler who holds no crown. The Knights of Malta, a once holy relic of the Crusades and a modern power cloaked in the language of humanitarian aid. But behind the red shield and the white cross, some see something darker. An ancient order of gatekeepers, a geopolitical priesthood, the Vatican's sword arm, the Church's spies, or maybe the silent architects behind the throne of power. CIA directors, NATO commanders, cardinals, bankers, tycoons, and kings. The roster of the order reads like a cast list of a shadow government. Today we're going to go deeper than history textbooks and beyond the Sunday school tales. We're going to examine what happens when faith meets force, when sacred vows are whispered in the halls of military command, and when symbols carved in Jerusalem's stone begin showing up on Pentagon walls and UN flags. We're going to talk about the Sovereign Military Order of Malta, its ties to intelligence agencies, the Vatican's Cold War strategies, Operation Gladio, how the same order that once guarded pilgrims to the Holy Land may now be guarding the gates of a very different kingdom. Is the order merely a remnant of Christian chivalry, or is it a surviving organ of empire, power, and global control? Joining me is a man who's no stranger to the twilight where religion, power, and secrecy intersect. He is the black archivist of occult power, the reluctant cartographer of invisible empires, the shadow walker, pattern seer, William Ramsey. Welcome back to the show.
Brandon, great to be with you. Glad to be here.
So today we're going to be talking about the Knights of Malta, and if you can give us a history lesson where this all began and where it all ends up, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's a really interesting story. It's not decades old, centuries old, but millennia old. It's a millennial old order that really started back in the original Crusades, if you remember, the Crusaders to the Holy Land.
Right.
And it's one of many orders. It sometimes gets confused with the Templars.
Yeah.
It's not. It's a separate order. And you recited the full name of the order. It's generally known as the Knights of Malta, but its full name is the Sovereign Order, Military Order of Malta, and also formerly known as the Sovereign Military Hospitaller Order of St. John of Jerusalem,
Right.
of Rhodes and Malta. And so their kind of primary saint is John the Baptist, as we know, who baptized Christ. And the iconography and a lot of the pictures that are in their churches and things reference back to that. And they have a specified kind of special star. It's known as the Maltese cross. It's 8-pointed. It has meaning.
Yeah.
It actually has meaning, and you'll see that in my slideshow. But I think you asked really great questions right there at the intro. Is it just some kind of relic? Some of the critics have said these are Christofascists or LARPers. It's LARPers have been used as the name for these guys. Like they're having fun playing dress up and playing Christian.
Right.
And I think that that's not true. I think the opposite is they're very serious, and they have very serious characters. And you mentioned some of these intriguing clandestine individuals, but like so many people from the really World War II and some of these characters are really remarkable And I'm not making a moral judgment, but they are remarkable characters. Galen, the head of the SS, Himmler is a member. And then we have Wild Bill, I forgot his last name, the founder of the OSS, Dulles, and some of these other characters are there. We talked in the pre-show, Jimmy Savile.
Right.
And there's a kind of a picture I have, which is remarkable of him with the Pope. I think it was Pope Paul II, from the guy from Poland. And he had carte blanche all the way with and it's also involves Charles III, actually, the king. But Savile had kind of carte blanche to get in and out of Buckingham Palace. We know that. And friends with a lot of the royals. So there's a lot of interesting characters, and I have those in my slides. But just to go through the history, it's 1,000 years old. They were, after the fall of the kind of Crusader Empire, they fled to Cyprus, which is that kind of island south of Turkey. It's in the news recently. Then they fought, and they had a history of fighting the Muslims. They lost the island of Cyprus. Then they went to Rhodes, right? So we have the Rhodes, which is kind of in the Aegean Sea, and then lost there. Malta is just south of the Sicily. So Italy, the boot, then the island kind of to the west of the boot is Sicily, and south of that is these 3 islands that are known as the Maltese Islands, and that's where they've been headed since, I believe, 1522.
Right.
And there was a famous siege there against the Ottomans, so the Muslims, and they were granted this base by Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, and for the use of those islands, the emperor requested 1 Maltese falcon. He was a famous falconer, and that's the kind of symbol of the Maltese falcon that actually comes up into our kind of modern films. It references this kind of important symbol that was exchanged by the Maltese Knights and the Holy Roman Empire. They're kind of an interesting group. It was conquered by Napoleon in 1798. So that was kind of interesting. But it's a very large and international body. They have many places all over the world in 120 countries, but they're very much a humanitarian group. They have 500 knights, dames, so they allow women in there. They'd be dames of Malta. They have chaplains. They are dedicated to public service, but they also have some interesting aspects into their thing. They have they're extra kind of, they're governed by the Catholic Church, but they're kind of independent too.
Right.
And they're considered their own independent kind of country. So they have their own passports that are honored by certain states. So it still has, and they have an interesting kind of home kind of house or something like that in Rome, in the Eternal City. And it's kind of famous, actually. It has kind of a tourist site that people look through, this kind of keyhole into the Knights Templar mansion, and it shoots out over the city, and you can see the cupola of St. Peter's Cathedral. So
yeah.
That's one aspect. So it is its mission is to kind of help people. Its motto is defense of the faith and assistance to the poor. And like I said, they have a sovereign entity status. And they have a lot. Sometimes if you're watching, they're famously red and white as kind of their colors. So you'll see if you're kind of aware.
Right.
And that color combo is kind of permeated a lot of Western other kind of groups. But you'll see, so if you keep an eye out, sometimes you'll see ambulances and things like that in crisis zones that are associated with the Knights of Malta. They also have a lot of membership in the elite families of aristocratic families of Europe. So it's not just the line of Saxe-Coburg, Gotha of the British aristocracy. Excuse me. It's also French, Italian, Hungarian, German. Habsburgs are a member of the Knights of Malta. Before the Russian Revolution, there were members. So it was also kind of a sign of honor, a badge of honor to be a Maltese knight. And it wasn't something for the public. It was kind of it was regarded as kind of a secretive or clandestine group of people who were interested in this kind of legacy and add to their own kind of aristocratic CV, so to think, is to be a member of that too. And it used to be, I think that membership was really kept out for aristocrats until fairly recently.
Yeah, you mentioned that they basically operate with they have like this sovereign protection. This is basically like diplomatic immunity. Okay. I was wondering, and this is the other thing. They also have the UN observer status, right?
Correct.
So they're not they're not a state member of the United Nations, but they can participate in those meetings.
Right. And I mean, they have ownership of land, international. There's actually people like in South America associated with the Knights of Malta. So it is an interesting order, and it's supranational. So it's like people from different states have different loyalties. So it's almost like people can have, and some of the people that, I mean, you have connections to Steve Bannon, Eric Prince, possibly Peter Thiel, who's in the news a lot. And some of these other characters, really, like if you know the Heritage Foundation, which had the Project 2025,
Right.
The guy who started that is a Knight of Malta and a Knight of the Holy Sepulchre. So they see themselves in this, and this whole kind of Crusader mentality. A lot of that was from the Knights of Malta. A lot of the anti-communist guys were Maltese knights and had that kind of mentality of like, we're fighting the godless, we're Christian soldiers, Catholic Christian soldiers. So
right,
it's very important. And you mentioned Gladio. So many of these characters come up in Gladio names and things like that. So it is a clandestine, unspoken. Eric Prince is very influential too.
Yeah, I think there was something. Was it William Casey? I think that was Reagan era, and he had some tie-ins there too.
Right, CIA, head of the CIA, known Catholic, attended mass, I think, every day. A lot of very
James.
Conservative Catholics.
So James Angleton. I mean, there's several of these names.
Yeah.
Okay, that have these ties with the Vatican and the U.S. government officials.
Yeah, no, I mean, it really is something else that these kind of characters who are there, who are heads of our kind of clandestine intelligence services, are all there. Both Dulles brothers are known to be members.
Right. But it's like, I mean, they start out, Knights Hospitalier as hospital knights. They cared for pilgrims on the way to the Holy Land during the Crusades, etc. And now they, like you said, you'll see representations of their program on ambulances, etc.
The other head of the OSS, whose name I couldn't recall, was Wild Bill Donovan.
Right.
Very important figure in World War II.
And then, I mean, there was even a rumor that Pope John Paul I, his death was related to Vatican bank scandals, propaganda due to the Knights stuff going on.
There might have been. I haven't seen that. I know that there's a connection to Vatican Bank, propaganda due,
right,
which is a Masonic order. A
Yeah,
lot of
P2.
wealthy, probably overlapping interests. That's the whole thing about this. So people can be a Knight of Malta and be part of other organizations. Like
Sure.
Himmler himself is actually an interesting case in point. And Galen, who was a known friend of Dulles too. These are both kind of ardent German patriots, straight up Nazis, far right wingers who had really fascinating post-war. I mean, even though Himmler didn't make it past World War II, he was really the architect of taking stolen assets and German assets and offshoring them outside of Germany, only to have them come back in. And it was called like the Great German Resurrection. It was because a lot of that money was taken out of the country and returned back in, with a lot of pretty interesting characters, to say the least. Otto Skorzeny and some of these other characters, and people all over the JFK assassination.
Right.
And Skorzeny was one, believe it or not. So pretty fascinating history. Or like it's really the clandestine history, a lot of stuff that isn't taught, even in college.
Yeah, I mean, there's like names of people that you could just look up and find some level. I mean, Harry Kissinger, Secretary of State, may have done some stuff with them. I mean, it's just Pat Buchanan claimed to be a knight in some sources. I mean, there's just all sorts of information you can dig up and find these weird connections. Because, like you said,
William
you could
Buckley
be
was one too,
right.
which is interesting. Like he's like these, but Buchanan and Buckley are both big cultural figures on the right, and a lot of that stuff is never disclosed. I think Buckley was also a member of Skull and Bones, so he's part of this overtly Christian organization and an occult organization.
Yeah, there's a connection. George H.W. Bush through the Skull and Bones.
Prescott Bush was a member of the Knights of Malta. That's the information that I have.
Right.
So that family, I mean, maybe even George Bush is a member of the Knights of Malta.
Yeah, because you can have multiple ties, like we've already addressed.
Yeah. So it's really kind of a secretive power zone that nobody sees. And I've done shows also on the Pilgrim Society.
Yeah.
And there's this concept or duality concepts of public diplomacy as opposed to private diplomacy. So maybe us as the public, me as somebody who's not even close to any political power, we just think the Secretary of State and the president is making diplomacy. But oftentimes there's these secretive, clandestine private organizations like the Knights of Malta where things are being arranged and being played out in public diplomacy. So the private diplomacy may be the real important place where these policies are discussed and laid out and then played out, much like this Project 2025 of the Heritage Foundation, where they may be at like the headquarters of the Knights of Malta writing all this stuff. I don't know who the followers are, but the guy who's the head of it is just an incredible character. And then there's overlapping too with other powerful Catholic things. Like they just had a guy who was the head of the Knights of Columbus became the Knights of Malta.
Yeah.
So that's another overlapping kind of secret. Knights of Columbus are very serious, legit. I think they control billions of dollars in insurance funds, which is a market mover, like incredibly amount of money that if they put their investments in certain places, they really can change the market. So.
Oh, right. Well, no, that makes sense. I mean,
that's just one example.
I mean, there's ties. See, the thing is there's like these weird ties with Freemasonry, Knights of Malta is, a form of, and the Catholic Church is staunchly against Freemasonry. And yet there's these like little tales that are like, this is similar.
There are people who are in secret societies that are very dark and have initiations involving a tomb and being reborn,
right? Which
are in the Knights of Malta. So you kind of wonder, how serious are you guys? I mean, the Skull and Bones is very. I mean, they probably know Crowley. They know a lot of this kind of ceremonial magic. They practice ceremonial magic.
Yeah, there's a seminal rite of initiation, the bearing and rising, that's found in becoming a Knight of Columbus. It exists in there too.
Interesting. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
Initiation bodies are kind of pretty suspect. I don't know how Christian that would be, how authentically Christian it would be to be in the initiatory system. And
besides the standard, the baptism, the receiving of the Eucharist, and all of those things. I mean, those are an initiatory process, but
Christ's example is, I've done nothing in secret. I've done everything in public. He said that I can only verbatim. Yeah. But he's like, I've done all this stuff. I've made my stuff as public as possible.
But the thing is like the secret societies engaging in secret rituals of initiation. That's the problem, and that's what the Catholic Church is supposed to be against.
I would agree with that.
Right.
And I don't know. I don't think being a Mason and being a Christian are. They should be two distinctions. I don't know if you could be one and the other. I don't think you can be both. Is what I.
Well, you can't be. Yeah, you can't be Catholic and be Freemason. But I mean, you can maybe be, Mormon or, a member of the Church of Latter-day Saints of Jesus Christ.
So you saying you can be a Mormon and a Catholic?
No, you can be. What I'm saying is you can be a Freemason and a Mormon.
Oh, right.
Right. Well, you can be a Freemason and some Protestant.
Mormonism is Freemasonic.
It's correct.
That's another show.
That's correct.
Do you have any chance to pull up the slides, or are we just not going to?
Yeah, we can talk about the slides. I mean, the audience isn't going to see what we're talking about with the slides.
Because they're really interesting, because there's a visual representation, and it shows this really beautiful church in the central island of Malta.
Yeah.
And it's really remarkable because it has like great Renaissance paintings in it, depictions, but also it lays out all the tombs of these knights and how carefully and how much respect they had for each knight. They had their own kind of decorations on there for each knight that's passed away. So I think that it's very, I mean, to be buried in that church as a Knight of Malta seems to be a real sign of respect. And you're able to visit that. It's in the main city in Malta, which I can't remember right now. But Malta itself is a very curious historical place because it goes back millennia. But that church in itself is really, and it shows the kind of, there are other pictures of Knights of Malta from like the 16th century, and that church is still extant. So these like elements of the Maltese history are ascertainable. I've never, there's maybe one reference or two reference to the Knights of Malta in really newspapers. So it is interesting how much is kept out of the public consciousness. I've never seen a documentary about the Knights of Malta. I've never seen kind of anything researched in depth about the Knights of Malta. Yeah. Much like the Pilgrim Society, there's very little stuff about, I mean, these are both power centers, like it's infamous kind of in the alternate media. There are three power centers in the Western world: District of Columbia, City of London, and the Vatican. And these are elements like the Pilgrim Society and the Knights of Malta are in two of those three kind of epicenters of supranational world power.
Yeah, one of these slides, I might use some of these and try to figure out how to put them up. But I mean, like, I grew up through the 90s, and there was a video game series that came out that in the Asian countries was released as Biohazard 1, 2, etc. In the United States, it was, Resident Evil.
Right. Yeah, they use it.
And the big bad guy in Resident Evil was the Umbrella Corporation, and the Umbrella Corporation symbol is quite honestly, an 8-sided or an 8-pointed star.
It's the Maltese cross, yeah.
Right. Modified. But that's not the part that's really interesting. The part that's interesting is a biological research lab that uses pretty much the same logo, just offset in different colors, right in the city where the coronavirus originated.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's right here in one of your slides, man.
Yeah, and so that's like the first slide that symbolizes the 8th: the loyalty, piety, honesty, courage, honor, glory, contempt for death, solidarity towards the poor and the sick, and respect for the church. So. But you see these colors all the way suffused through so many: Switzerland, Bank of International Settlements, Sovereign Vatican Militia, Knights Templar. But some of these names that are in here, Alexander Haig, we know him. J. Edgar Hoover, Knight of Malta, he's involved really running kind of domestic policy in the U.S. for decades. Philby, great trader, one of the Cambridge Five. Clay Shaw's a Knight of Malta, right there in the center of the JFK assassination. Very much overlooked, never mentioned in a lot of the studies. Even JFK kind of investigators overlook that. I've never heard them mention his importance that he's a Knight of Malta. Frank Sinatra.
The other really big one that I was looking at with the slides was, where was it? Oh, so Pope Francis a while back dissolves their leadership and establishes like a new constitution for them. This is, a couple of years old.
Yeah, very recent. So they're in the news recently. So it was Bergoglio.
Right. Yeah, this was well before he had passed away. He had gone in and addressed some of the issues with the leadership of the Knights of Malta, which, kind of stands out and puts them into mainline focus. But what you get in the mainline focus is obviously the sanitized account.
Right. And here's the organization chart. It's really fascinating. So it just shows the Grand Masters off to the side. The Supreme Pontiff is there, but the organization, it goes back and this is the original kind of bull for Malta, Gozo, Tripoli, 1530. It's the donation.
Who was it that was emperor then? Did you say it was the Holy Emperor Charles IV? Fifth. Okay. Yeah, I was trying to find if they had ties to the Carolingians, basically because we've got Queen Elizabeth II involved
There she is right
here.
there in her Maltese cross.
Right. And she was a Habsburg. Is that what I had read? Or
she's definitely aligned. They used to call them the Saxe-Coburg-Gotha
that's it.
of Germany. And then they changed it to the Windsors after World War I to sound less German.
Yeah, that's right. The Windsor line. And yeah, she was knighted. Somehow women aren't supposed to be knighted. So that's kind of a curious thing.
It is curious. There's the infamous Ghislaine Maxwell with the head of Malta, ambassador to Malta. She was really the cultural leader of that intel operation.
Sure.
South Africa. There's possession of the island, 1530, with all these guys have their Maltese crosses on. Overlapping stuff. You've got the Rockefellers are there, Le Cirque, which is a known fascist organization.
Right.
Otto von Habsburg, very famous family name.
That's at the Habsburgs.
Overlapping with Opus Dei, too. So a lot of the Knights of Malta are Opus Dei.
Yeah.
As well as Holy Sepulchre, which I've said. So a lot of overlapping, very powerful Catholic churches. A place of immense power.
Yeah, I mean, they're Jesuits, Opus Dei. They're part of that Vatican's hidden apparatus. But, they're all, if I use the word, in bed together, and that probably draws the right kind of illusion. Yeah,
they that's another show, all of the other orders within the Catholic Church. But I mean, just some of the stuff that like I said, it's a supernational organization. So you see this guy Galen, who's a top intel guy who had all of his intel assets facing the Soviets. So
yeah, and they've changed the initiation process, or the who's allowed in process too recently. I mean, you still have to be invited. Somebody has to say, "Hey, I would like you to do this thing." I mean, it's Freemason. It's the same thing with Freemasons. If you go to like one of their Freemason breakfasts or whatever, and you're like, "Man, I'd really like to know about more or how to join with the Freemasons," and then they can engage you in that conversation because they're not allowed to proselytize. It's the same with the Knights of Malta.
Right. They'll probably take some kind of oath when they get in, not to discuss it too much, but this is a giveaway. He's wearing the Maltese cross.
Well, I think that there's levels, most of the individuals who are, first through third order Freemasons or first through third Rite Masons, they're not, they're just, Uncle Bob who lives down the street, they're just part of the fraternal organization, and they don't have anything deeper than, anything going on besides pizza and cookies or something.
Right. And so here's how big the Maltese are. It's really only 5 miles or 10 miles.
Yeah, it's a small island. Yeah, it's not very big, but they're everywhere.
Valletta is the main thing. This is how beautiful the church in Valletta. It's known as St. John's Co-Cathedral.
Yeah, that's where all of the knights are buried, and they have all their little
tombstones, 400 tombstones,
basically. Right.
Caravaggio's masterpieces in there of St. John baptizing Christ. Some of the symbolism, you see that kind of death's head. And some people have argued that the pirates' use of that death's head comes from the Knights of Malta, who were really very anti-Muslim and were involved in kind of piracy in the Mediterranean.
Yeah, I do believe I saw one that if you look back up there, one of these, they're inscribed with the 6-pointed Star of Solomon.
Yeah.
And I make that differentiation because the Star of David that is commonly seen on the State of Israel's flag today is not the same. It is visually the same. It's not the same idea of the Star of Solomon, which is something that, of this age, of this tombstone. This is older than the establishment of the Israeli state.
Yes. No doubt. You see the bones, crossbones, skull and crossbones.
Exactly. Very common.
I don't know what the Latin translation is of all this. It would be fascinating to see what those are. This is a kind of a alcove within that church.
Yeah, the temple. That's the altar stone. So that's going to be the altar piece where mass could be confected or something.
That's the Caravaggio in the back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So beheading of St. John. With the prominent Maltese cross on both sides.
Oh, it's everywhere.
And above the top, yeah. This is by Titian, another well-known kind of Renaissance guy, painting a Knight of Malta, right? He's got the Maltese cross. He's pointing at it. He has rosary beads, I believe, and I think a cross around his neck. Sammy Davis Jr.
Sammy Davis Jr. He's got his glasses on, and he's got his Maltese cross. It's a nice black and white photo.
Cape. Yeah, he's got his nice cape.
But he's got his fingers up doing the peace sign. I mean, that's a whole nother.
Right.
That's a whole different salute.
Yeah.
I mean,
so it's not. They had some interesting members, is what I would say. That I wouldn't say we're 100% Christian. I would say he's one of them.
Right.
Just you mentioned this.
Yeah, the raccoon.
About the Umbrella Corporation.
Umbrella Corporation. Yes.
This is the Kelly. I mentioned him earlier. Kelly is the Supreme Knight of the Knights of Columbus, also being admitted to the Order of Malta. So
right.
Really fascinating. This guy has a pretty cool.
Patrick
CV.
Kelly.
Yeah. But like heavily involved in, military.
Yeah, Patrick Kelly. You can look him up on Wikipedia and see gobs of information. Same with the Supreme Knights. What's that of the Knights of Columbia?
1.9 million members, 15,000 councils, and operates an insurance company with $109 billion of life insurance force. It's a huge sum of money, guys.
Yeah,
just off the charts.
Yeah, see, that's the whole thing that's interesting. Like with the dissolution of the Knights Templar, their banking empire had to go somewhere, and it almost looks like it was divvied out, or it was given to the Knights of Malta, who then divvied it up to other places because insurance was a thing pretty early on, and the Knights of Columbus to pick up in the Rockville. I mean, it's lots of people have these insurance controls. That's kind of an interesting banking scheme.
Right. And the Templars were known as the first international bankers. You could take a writ from Jerusalem to France and get it for gold, so you wouldn't have to transport it.
Yeah.
And so I think for people who don't know, Jacques de Molay was the last kind of head of the Templars, and that was Friday the 13th is when the king of France, who was jealous of their power, wrapped them up and took all their money. But there's pretty good evidence that they just went underground. That a lot of those guys moved around.
We end up in Scottish Rite and a couple of other places. Yes.
Yeah. So this is just another painting of the Knights of Malta. You can see the Maltese cross there. This is the current head. His name is John Dunlap, first Canadian.
Yeah, he's established after the new ordinance done by Pope Francis.
I think you're right. But this is new information. This is information I found on Twitter. Like, it's there.
Yeah, no.
These pictures.
Easy to find.
Yeah, it's not that hard. But he's making the sign of initiation for people who don't know. That actually... Right.
It's the open hand against the... It's the right open hand against the breast.
That's correct. So he's saying he's initiated. I don't know what initiation is, but this actually bled over into the occult. So you see a lot of occultists and famous. It's like one of the signs of like silence. I see it. They do these.
The hand of the thumb. I mean, there's all sorts of them.
Oh yeah, this means I'm on board with the secret agreement.
Yep.
So you see people like this. There's a lot of celebrities. They're almost all doing this. Like I've seen Quentin Tarantino. Brad Pitt does it in Fight Club. It's very Masonic Fight Club.
Yeah, this is the closed fist and the thumb facing away on the chin. Yeah. There's a similar one that's hushing the lips that I've seen too.
Yeah, there's a sign of silence.
Right. Anyway,
these guys have all kinds of secret signs. People wouldn't believe it who aren't in it, but they really do. Dunlap's an interesting character in himself, but imagine just holding these kind of like meetings in this austere environment. There's fake orders of Malta. There's fake orders of Catholic orders all over the place.
Yeah.
And they're really kind of a problem. But you have to kind of different. And your friend James Day's done shows on that too. But,
right.
Some of these names are like big names in kind of royalty, European royalty. Duke of Castro, Prince Charles, we know of. Thornburg Edgar, some of these other people. Head of Dominican orders involved this. Like Casey, you mentioned, Duelist, Wild Bill Donovan.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that's really interesting is, do we know if we've got any overlap between these Knights of Malta and like the global death cults that you've written about?
I don't know. It's a good question. I'm not aware of anything overt. I find that these are very elite kind of characters.
Yeah.
And people who are led in are people who are running companies and powerful. And I haven't seen a lot of my research about like the Order of Nine Angles or some of this other stuff.
Right. No.
Some of those members, they're almost all not, at least openly, people who come from, like heraldric backgrounds or aristocratic backgrounds. I haven't seen that at all. I've seen a lot of the Knights of Malta like that. But you mentioned this whole dissolving of the leadership and new constitution.
Right.
So you can read about that online. It's not very hard. There's the Pope, supposedly with the Umbrella Corporation. It's not. There's overlappings with all these people, Trilateral Commission,
right.
Rockefellers. It's this whole, hierarchy. I think this guy's really fascinating, Edwin Fulner. This is the head of the Heritage Foundation for decades. Very powerful guy. President of the Heritage Foundation from 77 to 2013. And then again, 2017, 2018. So like literally 40, 45 years or something like that.
Right.
And they are a huge impact on the conservative movement. And they just came out with that 2025 I mentioned earlier, I think. Tribute to the Maltese Falcon. I mentioned that earlier, and that turns into the Humphrey Bogart film.
Right. Yeah, in the novel. Yeah.
And then the same kind of St. Elmo's, one of these secret societies at Yale, uses the Maltese cross, and they pop up in our wars. That's the whole thing. Is that this isn't some kind of like group that's some kind of calcified ancient order. It's these people are active in modern military and culture. There's just absolutely no question. I'm not saying they're predominant, but these people are all suffused definitely in the right. And Seymour Hersh kind of tangled with them back during the Iraq War. And he made claims that people got really angry at that. The head people, McChrystal and other members of the Joint Special Operations Command, McRavens, were members of the Knights, and that they believed in all this stuff. And he said they were driven by an anti-Muslim crusader mentality, which they are crusaders,
right?
And they are anti-Muslim. Like they are fighting against Muslims. They've been doing it for 1,000 years. They see the Muslims as competitors or antagonistic religion.
Severe threat, yeah.
And he quoted, the people who don't know Seymour Hersh, who's probably one of the greatest living journalists out there, My Lai and all these other things. We're going to change mosques into cathedrals. That's an attitude that pervades, I'm here to say, a large percentage of the JSOC. So it's kind of like this is how you
it's the
get
swap.
in and stay in.
It's the reverse. I mean, it's turning cathedrals into mosques. All they're wanting to do is reverse that.
I would say that's more predominant than mosques into cathedrals.
Yes. Yeah.
In the Western world. This is an old thing. Eric Prince talking about a Knight of Malta tradition, but it's from 2014. He's around. He was around, when Trump attempted assassination July 2024. He was part of the commission with Bongino, somebody else kind of looking into it. So many other names, some I've mentioned, some I haven't. Rupert Murdoch, Franz von Papen, who, there were all these Knights of Malta around Hitler, which is really crazy. Galen, Himmler, and Papen was very much involved in kind of conservative. So I would say in Germany, there were like the occult conservatives and the Christian conservatives, and the kind of aristocratic Christian conservatives, and they kind of fought against the communists and the leftists. But they also fought amongst themselves, and it's a whole nother part of the show, but like when they tried to kill Hitler and what's known as Operation Valkyrie,
right?
It involved a lot of Knights of Malta,
right? Yeah, I do believe there's a lot of Knights of Malta, even in the Tom Cruise movie.
Really,
I think so. I think I've seen.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, I think that's in there. I'd have to watch that a little bit more closely, knowing about the idea.
There was an intermediary between Dulles and the conspirators.
Yeah.
And Dulles was one of them, who's the Knight of Malta operating out of Switzerland. So a lot of people, Dulles was the head of kind of the OSS at that time.
But now we have someone like Michael Aquino. Is there ties, you think, between him and Michael Aquino, them and Michael Aquino?
I'm not aware of that. I don't know. don't know.
Because I mean,
But it is interesting.
I mean, we're looking at time, right? I mean, as we find this information, we're so far behind all. Dulles is back World War II era. I mean, it's kind of like, what's going on?
The Dulleses were really giants going back to the Treaty of Versailles, because John Foster was involved in the drafting of the Treaty of Versailles, which really could have really been the thing that made the Germans, including Hitler, really angry, as getting screwed in the Treaty of Versailles by some of these guys. They didn't get over it, and so they were always calling them criminals in World War I. So they wanted another round, and
right.
There's a lot of other history, but it also ties to the Knight of Malta. So,
right.
And it's interesting in the standard histories, even historians don't know, they may not be looking for the secret society element. So they don't know that there's secret agreements, that there's private diplomacy taking place.
Yeah.
That these guys are all connected and friends through secret initiations, just like we saw Dunlap. And that's an aspect of history that's real. And that's often overlooked by historians. It's not seen as anything valid. Like, what's the likelihood of these people who are running against each other are members of a secret society? And some people, there's other historians who say that actually modern history is a battle between different secret societies. And if you read enough history, you kind of see that making sense in a lot of ways. That some of these guys are all secret societies fighting. This guy's name is Burke. He's friends with Bannon. We all know kind of Steve Bannon.
Is it Cardinal Burke?
And he worked with Bannon. Right. So this is a guy who's a member of the Knights of Malta.
That's Cardinal Burke, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Making the sign of initiation, right? It's got a sign across his chest.
Yeah, see, this is one of the more interesting things too within the Catholic Church. When you this is kind of an interesting aside. I mean, because I am Latin Rite Catholic, so. When a priest or a bishop does the sign of the cross, they take their left hand and they put it across their breast and then use their right hand for in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. But then what they'll do is they'll stand with their crook in their left hand, their bishop's staff, their bishop's crook in their left hand, and they'll put their right hand across their chest, showing the ring. And so, for some, it's obviously, the sign of initiation, but then, you've got other people that are probably not initiated because this is a normal stance that you will see acted out regularly across the Catholic community. But when we have individuals who have these clear ties, we go from they're just doing their normal positioning as a bishop or cardinal of the church, and now they're saying, I'm actually initiated, and there's my sign.
They work together at something called Dignitatis Humanae Institute. As recently as, I think, 2014. Mm-hmm. They seem to have had a kind of falling out or something like that. They started some kind of teaching facility where they were going to kind of groom right-wing politicians. One of the interesting things is this woman who's very much involved in the Trump administration. She's one of the lawyers there. She's not his chief of staff, I'm not sure. But her dad is a chancellor of the U.S. Knights of Malta. His name is Janan Haba. He's Saad Haba, excuse me. And he is a Chaldean Catholic. So a lot of times we think of the Middle East and we just go, they're all Muslims. And
right, no.
It's not the case. There were a lot of Jews and a lot of Christians. There's Christians in Iran, Iraq, almost everywhere. Maybe not as predominant, but there she is, Alina Haba with, what was her name? I can't remember. She was the former press spokesman. That's a picture of her dad with the habit and the Knight of Malta cross. There's his name right there, Saad Haba. You can go see him on the website.
He's actually right on the website.
Yeah, it's not that hard. There she is with the head of the FBI. So, she's around. I mentioned earlier Prince was on this assassination hearing. There he is with now, I think, Deputy Director of the FBI, Bongino. And he's been on very important shows. There's Fulner again. One of the interesting thing of Fulner is his other inclusion in his other kind of groups. He's in, he's in Knight of Malta and Knight of the Holy Sepulchre.
Yeah.
Another Knight of Malta, this guy, Cardinal Dolan. If you see kind of They have that Smith meeting. It's a Catholic thing. Every year they invite these politicians. He's always there. He was sitting next to Trump, I think, at one point.
Right.
I should add that to my slide things, but he's literally in November. This is not that long ago, November 2024. He's talking about the Knights of Malta video. He says, "Have you ever heard of the Knights and Dames of Malta? They do magnificent apostolate rather quietly. Do their magnificent apostolate rather quietly and humbly."
Right.
Quiet. Oliver North, Knight of Malta. I included Pete Hegseth because he's in the news all the time. I don't know if he's a Knight of Malta. I do know that he has the Cross of Jerusalem on his chest.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, tattooed.
There's Roberts going into a Knight of Malta thing, so I think he's a Knight of Malta. This is the guy who gave Trump his oath. It's very much in the legal community. Alan West, Maltese type cross. I think he's a Templar or something. Knights of the Temple of Jerusalem.
Yeah, one of the things that was real interesting looking at this was, the Operation Gladio, was that something?
It's another line of inquiry.
Yeah.
It's definitely real. I've been listening to kind of the most
because this was, I think it was a NATO network designed for having armies stay behind in places. I mean, originally in countries to prevent Soviet takeover. So obviously this is after World War II. And so they were trying to prevent the Soviets from taking over. So they'd have these stay behind armies, but they would do things like false flag events and stuff like that to keep them in, allegedly conducted.
And blame the left, right? That's the
right.
thing. So,
or any, the other party. Basically any kind of attack to blame the communist is the whole idea is, yeah, they have the free right to blow themselves up and blame anyone they want, right?
Right. And I mean, that's another side thing, element of this Knights of Malta. This is kind of an introductory. I could probably, this presentation could probably be 2 or 3 hours.
Easily.
I mean, I could do it's
this
really fascinating because
alone.
it's just an aspect of history that I think this angle isn't looked into. Interestingly, the Knights, if you see Jimmy Carter, he passed away December 29th, 2024.
Yeah.
His celebratory pamphlet had the prominent Knights of King of Jerusalem cross, right?
Right.
So he's probably one of them. Other things like publications directory, there's a lot of information you can find out, believe it or not. It's really not that hard. You can just do a Google search. A lot of stuff on X, a lot of pictures.
Yeah. Right.
Ireland, 850 years of the Order of Malta. Ambassadors are members. Bilderberg groups, like Teal's adjacent.
Right.
And he's buddies with Prince. So Prince is the Knight of Malta hanging with Teal, who's like having very strange interviews and things like that I think don't make him look, put him in a positive light is the way I put it.
Yeah.
Peter Thiel, major U.S. political donor, said to pursue Maltese citizenship. So he wants one of those passports.
Yeah, it's a golden ticket, Seems to be. It allows you to go anywhere with one of them.
Right. Without getting checked out and a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Mercenary Eric Prince advising Trump from the shadows. So, he's been around. A lot of overlap with, Club of Rome, which is a notoriously, I would say, anti-human group.
Yeah. Club of Rome, the Bohemian Grove.
Yeah.
We're not digging too deep to make ties here.
No, not at all. Famous people, if you remember Douglas Fairbanks, he's a kind of famous actor. He was a Knight of Malta.
Right.
Here he is at Knight of Malta Ball in Palm Beach. There he is with his Maltese cross. Here he is with Reagan and the beautiful Princess Grace, a.k.a. Grace Kelly.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So she has an interesting story. I covered her. She ended up dead on somebody kind of who was like a wannabe Maltese. It was the Order of the Solar Temple. She died mysteriously. Her car ended up on a Order of Solar Temple's property, of all things, that she was affiliated with.
Right.
She was giving them money. That's
Yeah.
a side. I've done a show on the Solar Temple, but there's a lot of mystery involved in her death, by the way. From Monaco, of all places. Here's who was supposed to be the King of England, who was passed over, Prince Edward, supposedly for marrying an American woman, but I think he was unfit for the throne, is a way to put it. So they just came up with an excuse. He's giving a talk in 1933 with the Maltese cross.
Oh yeah, who was it that took his place then? Was that?
It was his younger brother.
Yeah. Okay.
And then when he passed away, it was his sister. I think his sister was Elizabeth II.
Right.
His younger sister.
Yeah.
Office 40. She was a fantastic royal. I mean, I'm not real positive about the royal family, but they do. He was. He even admitted in one of his things, like he was a Nazi sympathizer.
Yeah. Well, that was everywhere.
He wasn't intellectually that interested. He just he didn't have the kind of gifts it would have taken to be king.
Yeah.
Rose Kennedy with Cardinal Baum at the Knights of Malta Ball, Palm Beach. Right. So the Kennedy family, they have their own. The Knights of Malta have their own museum in the city of London, of all places.
Right.
Called the Museum of Order of St. John. It's got the Clerkenwell Priory.
Yep.
And they have a presence in Jerusalem, the holy city of Jerusalem. This is the German part of the order. So it's Johanniter Ordens Hospice. That's German. This is on the Via Dolorosa, which for Christians, I think of all faiths, is where Christ carried his cross.
Yeah, the road. Yep.
I included some of these pictures because it just shows the suffusing power of the Knights of Malta through the aristocracy of Europe. So this is Prince Bernhard, installing his daughter, Princess Beatrix, as an order of St. John. And she's had, I think some of these royals are involved in a lot of scandals.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah, that's why people say that these guys are LARPers, that they just get to role play being the human, whatever.
Right. That it's just kind of like an adding to their aristocratic bona fides, so to speak.
It's just weird. It's a weird pride thing. It's like why it matters.
If you're not part of the aristocracy, you may not care, but amongst them, it's very important. Like how many secret societies you're in, how big your heraldric thing is, and how many, curves and all this stuff. They really believe in that stuff.
Yeah.
This is Trump welcoming Alina Habba to join his white team. She's a counselor, so you have literally somebody who probably, my guess, is if her dad is the chancellor of the Knights, she's a dame of the Knights of Malta.
Right. Right.
I think that's not a stretch.
Yeah, dames.
This guy's a famous guy. Opus Dei. His name is Leo. I forgot his last name. It's Leo something. But he's all involved in getting conservative judges and through the judiciary. Whose name I can't remember.
Yeah, so he's part of Opus Dei and part
Opus Dei too. And I think to become a member of Opus Dei, you literally wear a garter. And what that means is your loyalty. And there's an order of the garter in the British royals as well.
Right.
But you put this thing around your leg and it digs in and you walk around with it. And that's your kind of secret.
Your limp
and loyalty. And if you're really a penitent, you like tighten it up like people who whip their backs or whatever, those types.
That's right. Right.
Anyway, it's kind of a global element. There's Knights of Kenya. Grandmaster meets the Knight of Kenya. He's with Knighted Uhuru, knighted in 2022. Order of St. John, so they get involved in this. And that's really my first set of slides. I mean, we can go through all my slides. I know we're at the 52-minute mark. But that's kind of like an introductory element of the Knights of Malta. And it's really an introduction because there's a lot more stuff going on in there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm just seeing all sorts of cross ties between people's agencies, operations. Like I said, the SNOM's interaction with, CIA, NATO, the Vatican, of course. And
you have to see it as kind of like part of the octopus, I guess. That's not because it's private diplomacy. Nobody ever sees its machinations. That's what makes it powerful, is that secrecy. And have you ever heard the game Werewolf?
Right. Yes. The werewolf experiment.
Yeah. And it's kind of like that. The people with the inside monopolized information wins every time.
Every time.
If you have the inside information, whatever it is, politics, finance, anything, the people without the inside information always get pumped.
Yeah, the goal, let's see here. Let me just tell people the Werewolf game.
I have a video of it. I don't know if I can pull it up right now, but it is interesting. The Werewolf game is basically, for people who don't know, it's like a group of 10 people. 2 people are werewolves.
Yeah, so you got villagers who are known as the innocents. You got werewolves, the killers. And then there could be a couple of other things. There's like the seer, the hunter, the witch. There's a night phase and a day phase. The night phase, the werewolves secretly choose a player to kill. The day phase is the entire group debates among who among them is the werewolf, and then they vote to execute somebody. And the goal is for the villagers to root out and eliminate the werewolves, but the werewolves always win.
And the lesson is the inside info.
Right.
You can't figure it out. And that's really the function of secret societies and the power and why people join secret societies, right? Like there's a reason why they're joining it.
Yeah, it's it feeds into a couple of like real life McCarthyism, right? So you accuse innocents and you leverage fear to do social control. Another term that's thrown around everywhere is the word witch hunts. That's commonly used. We hear that one, that Trump loves the word witch hunts. And then honestly, the modern cancel culture is also part of the werewolf game. It's the power dynamic that accuses the innocents, and you're left proving your innocence, but you can't because they control the information.
Right. They know the outcome too, right?
Right.
So once they make that accusation, it's like, now we can take your job or take your money or whatever. And it happened really during the Biden. I mean, it's very much the Biden thing. People were being targeted for the censorship machine. They didn't understand how the functioning went, but they were being ratted out by their neighbors, politicians.
And that's the crazy thing with the werewolf game is it's not the werewolves who are doing most of the who are doing the killing. It's actually being done by the villagers themselves. And so that's the whole trick. Is it's like we're going to choose,
because they're selecting who they think is the werewolf, who aren't the werewolf, right?
And then they kill that person, right.
So it's the chaos of it. But that's my point. Is like a lot of these people, like they got censored during 2020, the YouTube slaughter. But what they never knew is that they were being targeted by somebody like a low-level Democratic minion, Antifa, somebody involved in the steal of the election, and then it got escalated, and then somebody got the information at the top and got rid of you and said, "Oh yeah, that's disinfo." Well, it wasn't disinfo. Disinfo was the cover. What it really was, and they also, a lot of the purpose of these censorship wasn't even about information. It was about the ability to make money, which is probably the more important thing. So a lot of these leftists are on the face, totally duplicitous, two-faced weasels, because they really care about you not making money off of telling the truth or whatever you think the truth is.
Well, like I say, it's like I said, it's it's the first, second, the third. These people are in the secret orders. They're part of the fraternal brotherhood, but they're not really in the know. And it's the same thing. We just had a series of riots going on with the Los Angeles riots is a prime example. And then you had people supporting that in other places like Eugene and Portland, Oregon. I mean, it was not a logical situation, but you look at the people who are going and then they're breaking in and looting and doing, and it's like, who stands to profit from these kind of situations and these chaotic moments? And it's insurance companies.
Right. Like there's secrecy behind it, and secret information and secret machinations. And you have to see Knights of Malta within that. I mean, it's really is.
Right.
This is actually interesting because this is Marco Rubio, who's the Secretary of State, sitting in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, right?
Right.
Which Fulner is a part. This is very recent. And that's actually interesting because I believe that's a Orthodox priest, Catholic priest.
Yes.
And then
might be a order within the Roman,
like a Chaldean priest.
Right.
There's Alina Habba, There's Roberts, another, inauguration ceremony at Knight of Malta, doing the inauguration. This is another interesting guy, Virgil Dechant, Knight of Columbus, but it just shows how powerful these guys are. He's an Order of Malta.
Yeah,
a
there
Knight
you
of
go.
St. Gregory the Great. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, but with the Knights of Columbus, the insurance companies.
Right, but he's the same thing. He's like the other guy, Kelly. They're overlapping with all these 16 honorary degrees, but a very powerful guy. And he was also the consigliere of the Pope, which is really something else.
Right.
Like it's almost, Dechant was serving as the consigliere to the Vatican City State.
Right.
So you see where the mob gets some of its stuff. The mob didn't invent a lot of the stuff, or the occult. It bled out of some stuff from the Catholic Church.
Yeah, people taking it out to the streets, if you will.
Yeah, so there's one of the Rothschild families with the Knight of Malta, Maltese Cross.
The dude's got some chops.
Yeah, he does. And then there's other kind of these. Casey and Callie means their dad is involved in the Knight of Malta. And
that's RFK Jr., right?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
This is a really crazy picture. I wish I had it in color because it's Jimmy Savile with
JP2.
JP2, 1982. But I think he's got a very prominent Maltese cross right on there, very gaudy piece. And I think that's if he's wearing red and white, he's actually dressed to a T for this event because
that's why it should be in color, like you're saying. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if somebody has that in color,
that'd be great.
Email it to me. But he was also a Knight of the British Empire, Order of the British Empire, so he was very well put into those systems. Charles III I've mentioned. British Knights suspended by Order of Malta for writing a highly critical book about Pope Francis, so there's definitely this internal censorship or censoring of people. This is fairly in 2018. King Charles III, for us, Malta is family. This is another Maltese knight. Malta, Charles in Malta. Connection to the Sacred Constantinian Order of St. George, so overlapping again. And then the British Grand Master to the Knights of Malta on fast track to sainthood. His name is Andrew Bertie. So he's red and white, and he's got his Maltese crosses all over. So he's there with Pope Ratzinger, normally the head of the Inquisition. They don't call it the Inquisition; they call it something else. But he's basically part of the Inquisition. So those are more. I can probably pull up one more set if I don't know if you're interested to go the distance.
No, that's all good stuff, man.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's just really fast. I mean, it's fascinating from just a blank historical perspective. It's really something else. It's not covered. You won't see it on CNN or Fox News, but I think that that's very important. I think they take themselves seriously. So I think the argument that they're LARPing is silly.
Right. No, it sounds like they're doing a whole lot more. Yeah, that's good. I was just trying to see if I could find that photograph in color or something, but I'm not seeing it anywhere.
What, the color one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Someone will have to go find it.
JP2. There's photos of Pope Leo with the head of the Knights of the Order of Malta right now out already.
Rick Joyner is a prominent kind of Knight of Malta. He's also I think he's a Protestant minister. Let's see. Pull this up. Here's the current head again. Alina. There she is in red and white. Oddly, maybe she's got a white cross or she got something in white. All in red. There's Rick Joyner, Knights of Malta 2010, with Jerry Boykin, another military guy. Hegseth with Dome of the Rock behind him.
Right.
And he has a tattoo that says Kafir on it. He believes he's an infidel.
Right.
So this girl forgot her name, but she has the Cross of Jerusalem. but she was involved in the fake Epstein rollout, which was a complete joke, total idiocy. And there's Clay Shaw, Knight of Malta.
Yeah, with the what's that? The CIA seal.
Yeah, admitting that he's a member.
Right.
Never, I don't think, to my knowledge, never divulged. There's mace with the cross of Jerusalem earring. So then, there's regalias out there.
Mm-hmm.
This is the what's the girl who sang during World War II? But she's got all that stuff on there. What's the girl who did all the dancing and singing?
I don't even remember. She's a famous World War II dancer singer.
Yeah, just when she was a little kid, like 5 years old.
Oh, Shirley Temple?
Shirley Temple, yeah, that's Shirley Temple Black.
Yeah, she's got a sword in her hands too, it looks like.
She sure does.
Yeah.
She's got a cross around her neck. She's definitely involved. A lot of these guys in Iran-Contra, and Knights of Malta. John Siglaub, CI Director Casey, Vernon Walters, Oliver North were themselves members of either Protestant or Catholic ultramontane sects, such as the Charismatic Church of the Apostles, Opus Dei, and the Knights of Malta. Catholic Casey attended Mass daily and filled his mansion with statues of the Virgin Mary. The Da Vinci Code has nothing on what took place in Central America during the 1980s.
Right.
John Roberts on the Epstein list. This is the famous kind of sovereign military order of St. John in Malta at the Via Magistrale. And you can see through this kind of lamp. You see these people are in line. They look through this door lock. And it's really beautiful. I mean, you can see the Maltese cross on top there. So if you're in Rome, check this out.
I mean, the more we're talking about it, the more it sounds like a Dan Brown novel. I mean, really.
Sure does. St. Peter's Basilica through the Kilo door leading to Via Malta, and then people look through that and they see.
That's really nice. I like that picture. That's gorgeous.
Peter, so that's cool. Himmler's Reich, this guy's a Knight of Malta. SS assets saved in global conspiracy. This is Mark Felton, does great work on World War II. I would listen to a lot of his videos. But, it just shows Himmler's he's a Nazi, but he's also a Knight of Malta with Galen.
Right. Well, a lot of the world powers supported the Nazi, the National Socialist Party early on. I mean, I think it was all the way up until they're starting to murder the Jewish people that they're like, wait a minute. Because everybody supported eugenics for a really long period of time. And the Socialist Party was really into eugenics.
This is an incredible picture because it's like a rogues gallery of Cold War warriors. Michael Hand of Nugent Hand Bank. The guy literally cut somebody's head off or ripped his head off with his bare hands.
Yeah.
Ugly American Ed Lansdale, seen at the JFK assassination, amongst other things, a lot of other crazy stuff in the Philippines and Vietnam. John Singlab, Oliver North, Knights of Malta.
Right.
I'm pretty sure this guy's a Knight of Malta. He looks exactly like the guy from another picture I have. His name is... I can't remember. Michael King's research. He's done a lot of sovereign. Just overlaps between a lot of landed aristocracy and the Knight of Malta. So he's done Italian. A lot of these, they call these guys the black nobility. Maximus, Sforza, Colonna, Massimo, Roma, Caesar. A lot of them, Knight of Malta. Very secretive too. These guys do not like their pictures taken a lot. Miles Davis became a sovereign military order of Malta. That's the famous jazz musician. Lyndon Johnson. That's also Michael King's research.
Right.
Timothy Dolan, I mentioned earlier.
Yep.
William Buckley. Really strange guy. Joseph Kennedy. Bloomberg, supposedly. Ted Turner, David Rockefeller, Hearst. Just a who's who of characters. There's a lot of really good work on this one website about Le Cirque and its overlap with stuff. And then this is what the Night of the Church of the Sepulchre looks like inside.
Yeah, the cross section that shows there's a couple of different buildings. There's the tomb.
And the rock.
Golgotha, the site of the crucifixion.
So That's what I have so far. I have to reorganize my slides. I've added a lot of information and learned a lot. Like, it's a lot to learn. It's really kind of a 20th century, part of 20th century history.
Yeah.
The website that I wanted to mention about the Knights of Malta and the Pilgrim Society is Michael Chusodowski's website. I can't remember the full name of it now, but
it'll be in the show notes.
A great repository of these kind of sub-rosa social groups, so to speak.
Yeah, it'll be in the show notes. A lot of these things will be in the show notes. If I can figure out how to get some of these images on some kind of Google Doc that I can share with listeners if they want to see it too, it'd be great.
Send me a list of which ones. You can pull them right off of those slides.
Yeah, I see that, and I could probably just do it. Just take some time. That's good. You working on anything new? You got something coming?
Busy. I've been busy. I've worked on a lot of different stuff. I did a recent show breakdown of the great film, The Manchurian Candidate, and I did a show on that. And that also overlaps with a lot of kind of 20th century kind of dusty history and hypnotism and mind control patsies and Sirhan. So these things kind of come up and really come up to the modern day, these kind of strange, even today, this weird thing that happened in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. But for sure, Ruth and Mangione, who are all weird. There's just weirdly weird, strange things that are also weird, strange things about Sirhan, Lee Harvey Oswald.
Right.
And these guys are really strange.
Yeah.
They have strange. And one of the overlaps on the Manchurian Candidate, amongst many overlaps, and how sophisticated it was, written by Richard Condon in 1959. But it's that the communists groom the hypnotized patsy and hand him over to the capitalists, right? These are just terms. And that's kind of what happened with Oswald, if you remember.
Right.
He defected to the Soviet Union for a matter of time and came back, and then magically he shoots JFK.
Right.
And that's basically what happened with the lead character in Raymond Shaw, of all names, which ties over to Shaw in the JFK assassination.
All right.
Raymond Shaw's the guy who is supposed to kill the patsy.
Right.
And it gets really deep. We can go over if you want to get into it, but it overlaps with a lot of stuff with David Ferry, who Garrison said was one of the most important people who ever lived, a former Catholic defrocked priest,
right? Who
James Day's done a lot of great research.
Yeah, I think we can pin that and then do a show on this.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think one of the interesting things, what people don't know the background of that film, and amongst other films, is that it was greenlit in part by the power of JFK. Sinatra was who was a member of Knights of Malta. Right. He was a very close friend of JFK and part of the Rat Pack and campaigned for JFK and went to Hyannisport.
Yeah.
And had that. Sammy Davis Jr., Knight of Malta, said about Sinatra he had a direct line to the Kennedy White House. And Kennedy was a reader. He liked James Bond. He liked Condon's book.
Right.
He said, hey, you should make a movie out of this, Sinatra. Sinatra was the producer. And so he got everybody together, Frankenheimer, all these other characters. Vivian Leigh, who just came out of Psycho, if you remember Psycho, with Hitchcock.
Right.
So a lot of famous people. And she was Jamie Lee Curtis's mom. So they made that movie, and then it just kind of reflected reality. Frankenheimer was the one, it's still current because RFK, the brother of JFK, and he's still attached to his brother.
Right.
That's family. He was at Frankenheimer's residence, and Frankenheimer didn't just drive him to the ambassador, he was there. And he went to the ambassador and brushed into Sirhan. And literally said, is the movie that we made, is this actually possible? RFK gets killed by somebody behind RFK, not in front of him, which Sirhan was. And then Frankenheimer spins out and freaks out and has a nervous breakdown and goes to France. And Sinatra literally takes the Manchurian Candidate off the market for 25 years. It's never seen the light of day. for one reason or another, too freaked out, thought he was going to get killed. Who knows?
Yeah.
But that movie
Right.
is so important, and I'm not exaggerating. And it really is a piece of American history that they would. I mean, nobody would want you to see. All those guys involved in JFK have passed away, so like researchers like me are safe. But you can see why these guys would want that movie suppressed by hook or by crook.
Fantastic. I think that's a good spot to go ahead and end the show, man. I make sure to get a link here for you and your stuff going on. William Ramsey Investigates, of course, doing great stuff over on your show. I really appreciate the work you're doing there. And I think this is great, man. I appreciate you coming and talking on Truth and Shadow again.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Thank you for listening. This is a free podcast based upon the value for value model. If you find value in this, or any episode, you can return that value by liking the show, subscribing to this channel, leaving a review, or sharing with a friend on your social media accounts. You can also donate on my website. Thank you again. This is BT for Truth and Shadow Podcast. You are the light in the darkness.